to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, as I love to be every weekday. Number to call as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Plus, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $668. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. In any minute, Louis Riddick, NFL insider and analyst extraordinaire, particularly with front offices in the National Football League. He'll be right here with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. But until he gets here, let me go back to the phones real quick. Let me go to Michael. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey.
Go ahead. You're live on the air. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Stephen. How you doing?
I'm all right. Go ahead, man. You're live on the air.
I'm a big fan of yours. And I just want to talk about the Steelers. I think, and the Steelers was my team just like your team. I think the biggest problem is maybe in the coaches department where Mike Tomlin might be a little bit too light for the fellas. He needs to bring more discipline.
He needs to bring more discipline. There's no denying that, but he's going to have an opportunity to do that next season because it's not like he's going to get fired. So I think it's one of those things which I would be shocked if that happened because he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve to be fired. But with that being said, let's see what happens. Let's see what transpires. Who are you picking for the AFC and NFC championship game real quick, sir?
Well, for the AFC, I'm picking Kansas City. And for the NFC, I'm going to go with the Rams.
Kansas City Chiefs versus the Los Angeles Rams. It's not a bad scenario. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to Isaiah. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Isaiah? Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. What's going on?
I'm all right. Go ahead, buddy.
I got a question about James Harden. I just wonder, why do we harp so much praise on James Harden for these statistical nights that are humongous, but in the playoffs, he always pretty much does what he does in the game, which is take 3, 4, 5 steps back. And when you're supposed to step it up in the playoffs, what do you say about that?
Well, I say that he's got to improve with this performance offensively in the postseason. There is no denying that. But the flip side to it all is that he's asked to carry a tremendous load as well. Let's not negate that. When I'm watching right now, for example, is Herculean. It's absolutely sensational. The flip side to it is that it can't last. If this guy keeps having to do all of this leading into the playoffs, by the time the playoffs arrive, he's going to be gassed and he's going to have nothing left. And D'Antoni is going to run him into the ground. Some would argue that happened with Steve Nash. Some would argue that happened with Kobe Bryant. But that's just the way I see it. Appreciate the call. Is he there, y'all? He's there? Okay. Louis Riddick, NFL insider extraordinaire, is with us right now. What's going on, man? How are you?
Stephen A. I'm doing all right, brother. How are you?
Let's get right into it, man. We've got this postseason. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the New England Patriots. First of all, how shocked were you that you saw what you saw from New England against the Los Angeles Chargers last weekend?
Yeah, we talked about it, Stephen A. It was something I wasn't really shocked about in terms of what their approach would be. Look, this is still a big man's game. It's still a game where you try to impose your will, especially if you're dealing with an opponent who physically, just from a sheer size perspective, is inferior to you. When you put 7 defensive backs on the football field against the New England Patriots offense, or 6 defensive backs, and try to use that as a standard base set for your defense against their regular personnel, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to jam the ball right down your throat. Because physically, you just can't hold up doing that. You can't hold up putting safeties at inside linebacker. You can't do it, especially when the Patriots practice power football. They believe in power football. So the way they ran the ball with Sony Michel, the various forms of run schematics that they use in order to exploit the Chargers' defense from a personnel perspective didn't shock me at all. And then from there, when you have defensive backs playing linebacker and you're running the ball at them, as a guy who's a little bit smaller, you're going to think, well, I got to get a jump on this play and try and insert into the run game even faster before these big jokers get up on me. What do you think happens then? Then the play-action passing game opens up. So anytime they ball fake it, pull it out, and throw it, you're way out of position. So they had them at their mercy, and Gus Bradley did nothing schematically to change it, and that's why Tom went crazy on him.
So with that being said, how do you anticipate things will be different, at least, against the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday afternoon?
Well, one, I'll say this. The Chiefs are going to have like four guys in particular who are going to play prominent roles in this game on the defensive side of the ball that weren't even available to them the first time these two played. Namely, the two big ones are going to be Justin Houston is playing now. He didn't play in the first game. Eric Berry's playing now. He didn't play in the first game. Those are two huge additions. The Chiefs last week against the Colts really raised their game defensively at home against the Colts, who had one of the best offensive lines in the league, and totally shut down their run game. And they play much different at home defensively than on the road. Their offense can play good no matter where. The defense really feeds off of the crowd noise, the atmosphere, being at home there, and the statistics bear it out. I think they will make a concerted effort for sure to try and suffocate this offense, meaning this, as many guys up around the line of scrimmage as possible to shut down the run game, make sure Sony Michel doesn't go crazy. And when you have a team that doesn't have a whole lot of speed at wide out like the Patriots don't, you're going to try and challenge them at the line and make them earn every single thing they get. You don't back off of this team and give them space. When you do that, Tom will eat you alive. So I expect them to play one of their best games, and I expect them to make the Patriots earn every yard that they get.
How do you feel the Chiefs' offense will play? We got Patrick Mahomes. We got Tyreek Hill. We've got Travis Kelce, who I think is the best tight end in football. We've got Damian Williams filling in admirably, at least last week, for Kareem Hunt, who obviously is out for the rest of the season on the commissioner's exempt list. We all know why. And Sammy Watkins is returning. How do you anticipate this offense will perform, and how much pressure do you believe is on Andy Reid in his 20th season to finally get it done?
I think the offense will perform. I think they'll play one of their best games of the year. I think in the first matchup between these two teams, Pat Mahomes missed 3 easy touchdowns. Well, not easy, but 3 clear touchdown throws that he should have had in that first quarter that could have blew the game wide open for the Chiefs and totally flipped the script in terms of how that game turned out. He was too amped up. He was too hyped up. He admits that. I think you'll see a different Pat Mahomes in this game. They're at full strength offensively, minus Kareem Hunt. But Damian Williams, look, he's legit. He's a guy who their general manager down there, Brett Veach, loved. He's a guy who's big, fast, physical, great hands out of the backfield. The offense won't skip a beat. I think I'm not going to say it's going to have. They're not going to put up the same number of points as they did in the regular season. I don't know if weather conditions will permit it. I don't know if the familiarity that they now have with each other will permit it. But I expect Pat to throw the ball as well as he ever has. I expect the run game to be strong. I expect them to move the ball. I mean, look, the Patriots are a bend but don't break defense that plays great situational defense, red area, third down. They'll make their plays. I just have a feeling that from a talent standpoint, the Chiefs will make enough plays to win this game and get to their Super Bowl.
Your feelings about the pressure that's on Andy Reid for this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's legit, and you've alluded to this on your show. He's under pressure, and he won't say that. But, of course, he is. Look, one of his disciples, Doug Peterson, went back to his place that he kind of brought out of the, kind of rebuilt back in the early 2000s, and he won a Super Bowl. So, just from a competitive professional standpoint, Andy has to want to win one, and he knows he has one of the best teams he has had outside of the teams that he's had in Philadelphia that he should have won a Super Bowl with at some point in time. His defense isn't as strong as maybe he would like it, but I think his offense can offset it, some of those weaknesses, and I think they're strong enough in order to get to the Super Bowl and ultimately win it. So there's no question from the outside looking in, the expectations are very high for him as far as this Chiefs team is concerned, getting them to the Super Bowl. Whether he admits that or not really is irrelevant because in order for him to really be mentioned with the greats, and he is a great coach. No mistake about that.
He is.
But really to be legit in the conversation, we all know he's got to win one.
Talking to Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's stay on the subject of the AFC teams from this perspective. Robert Kraft, the owner for the New England Patriots, went on the record, was doing an interview, and called Tom Brady the greatest football player ever. Ever. Not the greatest quarterback, the greatest football player ever. Louis Riddick, to that you say what?
I can see why he says it. Like, obviously, he's a little biased or a lot biased, but he's had an up close and personal front row seat to witness one of the great stories ever in the National Football League, as far as a guy who was drafted with not a whole lot of expectations attached to what his career would look like, who's going on to be one of the most accomplished individual and team players ever to lace them up in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. And look, for a guy who played in an offense and for a team that emphasized team over individual and had a rotating cast of characters in the salary cap area and was never, really focused on just driving up his stats because his coach's philosophy wouldn't allow him to, he got every single thing out of what he was allowed to do and what the players around him allowed him to do throughout his entire career. And the greatest compliment you can give is the fact that he elevated everyone around him to a level that maybe they couldn't have been elevated to if it wasn't for his ability in particular, which I think is the greatest compliment you can give a guy in a team setting. And he's still doing it. He's still showing no signs of, experiencing the kind of fatigue mentally or physically that usually makes people tap out at this point. So, yeah, look, I saw LT up close and personal. I'm sure you did too. Lawrence Taylor was about 25 years ahead of his time. He was ridiculous. Jim Brown, I never saw play in person. Saw video. He's legit. Jerry Rice played against him. He was a machine. Mm-hmm. These are legends. I played against Jerry Rice. Never got tired ever. Never said a word.
Well, that was my selection. When I say the greatest football players ever, the name I come up with is Jerry Rice.
But you know what? And I'll go here too. All right. Look, I played with Deion Sanders. There isn't a corner on this earth that could do what he could do from a pure coverage perspective. He toyed with people. He played with them. Like a lion plays with prey out in the wilderness. I mean, he played with people because he was bored because he was so much better than them. So just from a pure talent perspective, I mean, Bo Jackson. Yeah, of course, we're getting into a long discussion here, but I mean, Bo Jackson. If Bo had in the short amount of time that he played, not a better athlete ever, maybe to ever lace up an NFL uniform. It's a great discussion. I can see why Mr. Kraft said what he did, and you can't really argue against him. Unless you're just trying to make a case for somebody different, which we could all do, but it's really irrelevant at this point. Tom's one of those people who really, and I've tried to do this later, as he reaches the later part of his career, just enjoy what he's doing. Enjoy the fact that this guy has played at the highest level. I mean, he's playing at like a Jedi mind level right now. I mean, the guy knows and has seen every single thing. You won't. I don't believe you will beat Tom. Tom beats himself at this point because there's nothing he hasn't seen. There's nothing he can't figure out.
So it's
pretty cool. I mean, I'm on the bandwagon, so to speak. I respect the guy's game immensely.
So basically, you're not caught up in, well, he didn't look that great during this regular season. No. He wasn't one of the great quarterbacks during this regular season. No. I'm sorry. Let me get a bit extreme, Louis Riddick. You're not saying that he's falling off a cliff. You're not saying that either, are you? You're not doing that either.
Not like your co-host wants to do. No, I'm not doing that. I mean, Max should have known better.
How about that? Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I get to the NFC, I got some news that I needed you to comment about. Scott Linehan, offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, is no more. According to multiple reports and multiple sources, Linehan is out as offensive coordinator after serving as the Dallas play caller since 2014, presiding over 3 rushing champions and DeMarco Murray in 2014, Ezekiel Elliott in 2016 and 2018. But he is out from the organization as the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. No word on how the Cowboys will replace Linehan. Your response?
I'm not shocked. Look, given what they have at their disposal and how inconsistent this team can look, especially from a passing game standpoint, you knew that that the coaching staff, meaning Jason Garrett and the owner who ultimately makes these decisions anyway, was going to look for something that would give this offense more horsepower and more diversity. Because when you watch the All-22 of the divisional round against the Rams, even though the Rams were putting it on them as far as the Rams offense versus the Cowboys defense, were really controlling the game from a physical standpoint, the Cowboys could have stayed in that game if the passing game would have been clicking because there were people running wide open. And now when it doesn't work out, as far as Dak maybe not finding the people he needs to find, or it's hard to put my finger on. Let's just put it this way. The offense underperformed in that game relative to what the opportunities show. Someone has to take the fall for that. And he was going to take the fall. He was going to take the fall anyway, even before this, because the offense was pretty static from week to week and lacked creativity, lacked some of the things that you can take advantage of with defenses now, given how offenses have expanded their scope and what Dak can do physically as well. What he brings from a weaponry standpoint. So you know they were going to go in another direction. This isn't shocking at all. At all.
I knew you weren't. I know your class personified, so I can almost predict and anticipate your answer. But I'm going to read this statement to you from Jason Garrett right now. He says, "This was not an easy decision because of how highly we regard Scott Linehan as a football coach and as a person. He and I had some really positive, substantive, and open discussions which took place in the latter part of this week, and we ultimately agreed that it would be in the best interest of all of the parties involved if we were to make a change in this at this position. This was very much a mutual decision, and there was a great deal of common ground and shared understanding between both of us during our meetings." He said more, but I'll stop there. You believe any of that?
Yeah, if he said it, I believe it. Yeah,
there you go. Exactly. Yeah. Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get to the NFC game. You saw the Saints against Philadelphia. You saw what the Rams did against the Dallas Cowboys. Who did you walk away feeling better about?
Well, obviously because of the way in which the Rams beat down the Cowboys, you sit there and go, okay, they're not messing around. They're trying to send a message about, we're not all flash and dash. We're not all L.A. West Coast throw the ball over the yard, pretty finesse. We can play bully ball just like everyone else is starting to play in the playoffs. The Saints you already knew the Saints could do that. The Saints can play ugly ball whenever it's necessary, and they've got real good defense, and they can play a multitude of styles. I would say I was more impressed with how the Rams beat the Cowboys more so than how the Saints beat the Eagles. But I'll say this: I was down in New Orleans the first time these two met, and there's this something about I think the Saints may have gotten a little bit bored as the season went on. I don't like to say that because it's not like they're like multiple time champions or anything. But this seemed like they hit a little bit of a stale point as far as their execution and attention to detail and their intensity. I think it's going to be different in this game. I think they're going to raise the level again. I think that atmosphere down there is just hard to overcome. I think it'll be a tightly contested game that it will be a slugfest. It's not going to be an aerial show. It's going to be a slugfest. I think the Saints will come out on top of that one, but it's going to be it's going to be tightly contested. It'll be a last possession thing.
If the Los Angeles Rams had Cooper Kupp at their disposal, would you be picking the Saints still to win it on their home turf?
I still would, and I like Cooper. I remember going down to the Senior Bowl and seeing Cooper Kupp and seeing just what his skill set, how his skill set would transfer to the NFL, and it did seamlessly, beautifully. Sean integrated him into that offense perfectly. I still would say, though, like you know that atmosphere down there. You know Drew is a upper echelon, just top-notch, all-time great quarterback. Mm-hmm. You know those two running backs are legit, and they are going to come out humming. That offensive line 1 through 5 down there in New Orleans is as good as a top 5 O-line in the league, if not top 3. And this defense, I'll tell you what, losing Sheldon Rankins hurts because he's one of the best young D tackles in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But Cam Jordan is a stud. Demario Davis is a stud. Marshawn Lattimore is a stud. And I'll tell you this, Eli Apple, for a guy who people left for dead leaving the Giants,
he's been balling. He's done a great job.
Absolutely. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny how when you consider the fact that these guys are human beings, and not all human beings are made for every situation, you give this guy the benefit of the doubt, you go, man, he wasn't nearly as sorry as I thought he was. Mm. This is a team, the emotion that this team plays with down there, if you're just watching a game at the Superdome, you can't help but dance in your seat. You can't help but get goosebumps when they introduce that team. It's ridiculous. I love going to that place more than any other for pregame because, I mean, legit, the people rolling in there off of Bourbon Street, out of the bar. I mean, it's just sick down there. I just don't know if the Rams can overcome that, if they can fight off that tidal wave of emotion and all that energy down there, damn, then they deserve to go to the bowl. I'm telling you that because this team's going to come out humming, man. That game, You pay double to be in that atmosphere you'd pay double to be in that atmosphere for a game like this.
So would I. I know I would, without question. Louis Riddick, appreciate you, man. Enjoy these games, and we'll be talking to you over the next 2 weeks leading into Super Bowl 53 in Atlanta, Georgia. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, the one and only Louis Riddick right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, Peloton is a game-changing indoor cycling bike that brings the energy of live studio classes right to your home anytime you want. Winter or summer, rain or shine. Whether it's a monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up and